Welcome to the Gender Finance Podcast. In this series, we sit down with finance leaders to hear their stories. Get ready for honest conversations, fresh insights, and inspiring perspectives on the future of finance and the role of women in shaping it.
Welcome to this third episode of the Gender Finance Podcast. My name is Simon Gorbutt. I'm Deputy CEO at Luxembourg for Finance, the development agency for financial services here in Luxembourg. I'm also the chair of the Communication, Events and Talent Working Group at the Gender Finance Task Force here in Luxembourg. But more importantly, I'm delighted to be joined today by Brenda Bol, who is country head at Cecabank. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here, Simon.
Great to have you here. You've had a distinguished career covering many years, many prominent financial institutions. You've worked in senior positions at Bank of New York Mellon, you've worked at Brown Brothers Harriman, Clearstream Banking. Now you're with Cecabank, and it's a career that spans 25, 30 years?
Yeah, almost 30 years indeed.
So, well, perhaps I'm very excited about our conversation because of that, and perhaps that's a good place to start with the first question. About that trajectory, about your journey, when we come to think about gender finance, what have you seen in terms of the changes in the opportunities that are available for women, especially in banking, whether that's in terms of numbers or how careers progress, the way those decisions are taken? What have you seen?
Yeah, this is an amazing story because I worked for 30 years now. I started in 1995 in August in Brussels and moved quite soon to Luxembourg. And when I started my career, it was very, very difficult to see a woman in senior positions. It was financial environment was a men's world, but not that I felt discriminated in any way or form. It's just that the opportunities didn't arise, or more women were not always seeking to evolve in senior positions because of different reasons, family reasons, personal reasons. They maybe have the certifications to move into certain positions. So it was hard or difficult to see women evolving as fast as we see now. So there has been a big change in the last 30 years, to be honest. I remember when I started my career as a manager and then quite soon moved into senior positions. I have been for decades usually the only woman sitting in a board meeting or in a manager's meeting internally or even with clients. For many, many years I have been, it was common to see myself alone among other men.
Yeah, so some change, positive, but still a long way to go?
I think it has changed completely. The last 10 years we have seen a phenomenal change in different ways. Internally, because we can see most of the organization moving more into diversity and inclusion. For the last 10 years you can see a positive evolution there, but also because cultural has changed. Women want to evolve now. You can see young talents that have done long studies and they don't want necessarily to stay home. They want to also progress in their career, and finance has been one of the places where we can see easily that change of diversity and inclusion.
And I guess over time we've created or discovered or rediscovered tools that we can use to help those who need support. We talk a lot these days about mentorship, we talk about sponsorship. Something that you mentioned to me the other day struck me, which is that you said that you, in your journey to where you are today, haven't really used or I don't know if it was needed mentorship or sponsorship. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Was it not available? Was it that you didn't need it?
Well, at the time when I started my career, the first 10, 15 years, mentorship was not common. Everybody evolves as it comes. However, sponsorship is something that I used throughout my career, and I think it's very useful. And if I can recommend, sponsorship is key for a career evolution, not only for women, but for men as well, for everybody that needs to have somebody internally in the organization that will trust you and support you and love you internally for someone that's very useful. Mentorship is something that I have been mentor myself for young talented people, not necessarily women, but young talents that I didn't have in my early career. Mentorship as some of the goals or something that was offered in the organizations.
So if in the absence of that mentorship, what were the kind of the factors or the things that really helped you or accelerated your progress?
I think I have been quite lucky in the opportunities that were open in the organizations I work with, and mainly I started working in American organizations where you can see that diversity and inclusion was one of the key focus that were progressing throughout the years, and that it was possibilities that were open without distinction. And I must say that in Luxembourg, I never suffered from discrimination or being really felt that I couldn't get a position or I couldn't evolve because I was a woman. I think the opportunities were there. I haven't seen that there was a hard stop because I was a woman, but it was more the willingness of trying to achieve different senior roles, or the opportunity of the capacities of the different positions that were offered that will fit into my profile.
And of course, now you've arrived at this leadership position which you hold today. Something you mentioned to me when we were discussing this podcast actually the other day, you said, if I remember right, not every woman needs or wants to be a CEO, and I think that struck me. I think it's perhaps an important statement. Maybe the underlying expectation is that we must push everyone, women especially, to move as high up the hierarchy as possible to occupy these CEO positions, but perhaps that isn't warranted. Tell us, what did you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think throughout my career I have seen, especially in the first 2 decades, that women were not necessarily interested in senior positions because of the title that was not appealing for women. Sometimes men want to move more further in senior positions because of the specificity of the title, whereas women is looking more for the responsibility they have and what they're achieving throughout the position, and not necessarily have a senior position per se, but it's more the type of job and the responsibility they may have. So yes, sometimes we think we need to have more women in senior positions, but it's not necessarily the position itself that attires a woman that will attract a specific position. It's more the responsibility and the environment they are evolving in.
So it needs a tailored approach, really.
Absolutely, yes, and I think it depends as well on what are the possibilities offered to women in those type of positions.
Yeah. Do you think there are measures that financial firms can take to accommodate those different types of ambition?
I think so. There, especially the big companies, they have different approaches on the different type of positions, not necessarily geared to the position itself, but what responsibility they can take in and what additional responsibilities they can add to such a position.
So we're talking about senior leadership. In fact, at Cecabank, you do have a high proportion of senior female leaders. I remember we came to visit you last year in Madrid. And I remember it struck me, I was sitting as part of our delegation across from senior leadership. Ainhoa Jauregui was there, your CEO in Spain. I think there was one man on your side of the table.
True.
How has this come about? Is that part of intentional succession planning, or are you opening up opportunities that perhaps other firms aren't? What's the story?
I don't think it's intentionally, but the opportunities are given equally to men and women, and Cecabank has been pushing a lot for diversity and inclusion. It's part of their DNA for many years now, and this has brought the opportunity that you can see many women in senior positions. Just to mention that when we went to visit Claude Marx at the CSSF to obtain the depository banking license of Cecabank, we were only women. Ainhoa, the CEO, myself, and the global head of compliance, Raquel Cabeza, and Claude Marx was very happy to see that we were having only women representing Cecabank. So this is a big change for what I have seen throughout my career when I started in my 20s, and seeing now that you can see women representing more and more in senior positions, there's clearly a change. At least in Europe, you can see that, yes.
And it must mean that you're embedding gender finance or women in finance in the organization. I know that you're signatories of the Women in Finance Charter, for example, in Luxembourg. What sort of other measures are you taking internally to make sure that it's embedded and mainstreamed?
Yeah, at Cecabank we have, as I said, it's part of our DNA, diversity and inclusion, and we see this in every stage of things that we do. For example, on recruitment, we pay attention that whenever we have the interviews, that we equally apply for men, women, but also diversity in the sense of people that doesn't have necessarily, that have certain handicaps as well, to be included as part of the financial environment. We have this in the teams. For example, if we have big teams, we make sure that there's equal balance of men and women as part of the team, as it helps to be creative. It helps to have a good harmonized team if you have this diversity. So you can see through the entire organization that we always apply as part of the culture of Cecabank, diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I think culture, that's the point, isn't it? Can I step back a bit and ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Because I know that you have children, I think, in their 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two boys. Have you noted changes in attitudes, for example, to parental leave, to maternity leave, flexible working? I mean, I've been personally encouraged by some of the legal changes or structural changes. In Luxembourg, for example, we have a very flexible parental leave now where you can take full-time or half-time or 80%, or you can do as I did, which is take 4 individual months across 20 months in total. But on the attitude side, what have you seen?
Oh, absolutely. When I had my 2 boys throughout my latest 20s, there was no possibility actually for a woman in a senior position to take parental leave. It was not well seen. The parental leave exists. It was only for women for 6 months. It exists, but it was, if you had a senior position, it was not well perceived by management. If you were taking that parental leave, you will be losing your position. And it was not sure when you will come back if you will get the same position. So it was not recommended. It was not encouraged at all. So I haven't taken any parental leave at the time. So my kids went to the creche daycare since they were 3 months old. No regrets. It went well. But the things have completely changed now. And you can see it's a cultural change in the organizations, but also people itself that wants to move more into a more social environment than it was at the time when I was having my kids.
And hopefully more interest for men to take up
Absolutely.
their side of the balance.
That's something that we haven't seen in the past at all. I think the last 10 years, thanks to the different legislations that are provided here in Luxembourg and mainly in Europe and Northern Europe to promote parental leave, to promote this time with socializing with families. And you can see more and more men taking parental leave, which I think is a great thing. And this is what has allowed it as well, women to take more career progression, because they're not the only ones who always needs to take them out in their careers to take care of their kids, but men are doing that as well. And I think that's fantastic that the country is giving this opportunity equally for men and women to take care of the kids when they're in younger age.
Yeah, it's a journey, as they say. We're not there yet.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think things will continue evolving in that direction. And you can see that younger generations are already taking this as a given, whereas it has been a long way to get into this type of possibility to take parental leave or time off for families.
Yeah. Well, we're coming close to the end of our discussion. As I think you know, we have a feature on the podcast where each guest gets to ask the next guest a question. So I actually have a question for you from our previous guest, who was Julie Becker, the CEO of the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. So I'll put that to you now if I can.
Let's see.
So she said, with the increasing focus put on women especially and on gender equality in the financial centre, some men feel left out. What would you tell those men who say they feel left out?
I think they're not really left out. I think they're pushed more on women and focus on women to get more senior positions and that give the opportunity to evolve. They're not necessarily taken out. I think his career has become equal and they need to fight to get the senior position now, whereas before maybe it was easily accessible. So I don't think they're left out. I will recommend to continue fighting for it, proving themselves and getting the capacity or the opportunities that will arise if they work hard for it.
So I suppose really it's a question of diversity, equity, inclusion at its most basic, at its core. It's not about men necessarily or women, but it's about giving support to those groups who need it most. And today, women need that support, and so that's where the focus should be.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been your question. Of course, now you get to ask a question to the next guest without knowing who that is. It could be a man or a woman. It could be anyone. What would you like to ask the next guest on the podcast?
Well, I will ask, now knowing the geopolitical environment that we have these days, which is not very positive, moving into, and you can see most of the democracy countries are moving into going backwards from diversity and inclusion. My question would be, how would you see diversity and inclusion in the next 10 years? Okay,
so looking forward quite a way. I think that's going to be a challenging one, but I look forward to hearing the answer from whoever gets it. Excellent. Brenda, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been a really enriching conversation. I've really enjoyed getting a better overview of your journey, the experiences you've had. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
And I look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, on Apple Music, and do check out the Gender Finance website at gender-finance.com. See you next time.